he's obviously one of the best players in the league. You know, as far as a pure chance creator, assist guy, he's the best guy I've coached. I've had some good players that produce goals, you know, in that spot at the 10, but in terms of a setup guy, he's the best guy that I've had. And, you know, I've had Zellerian and Valeri and some really, really good players in that spot. But he's a great pro and a great guy, and you just see how hard he works. You know, it's very rare in our league to have a guy like him that's so has so much quality, but is so humble and defends like he defends. Just a great player and a great, you know, person.
Brian?
Can you talk about the difference that Leo Campana made, not just scoring the goal, but things he did off the ball, you know, holding the ball up and that sort of thing?
Yeah, thought he did really well. His quality showed. Great to get 2 goals out of the 2 strikers. Hopefully the first of many. You know, I like where we're at. We still have a lot of improvement to make, but you know, we're defending really well. It's another game where, you know, we shut them down. I think they had 0.5 expected goals, and most of what they got was shots from distance. So I'm really pleased with that. You know, we're becoming one of the better teams in the league defensively, and now, you know, the goals are coming, and felt we should have scored more than 2. We were efficient. You know, we had 13 shots, but 7 on frame, and most of the chances we created, the shots were big chances. You know, so I was pleased with that. I thought we had a lot of big chances, and great win.
Go to Hayden.
Another game where you used 3 at the back. It seems like that's kind of opened things up a little bit. Just you know, talk about your thoughts on that and how that affected the game.
Yeah, you know, I think it's pushed the wingbacks up higher, which means we're getting more width, and especially against a 4, it's difficult to manage because their outside backs have to, you know, be honest on our wingbacks, and, you know, if they rotate out, then now we've got a 2v2 with the 2 strikers or a 3v2 with Carlos. So, you know, the advantages that we're creating in that system, especially in the final third, you know, I think you're seeing the benefits of it.
Go Sean, and then to the front row here.
Fofana and Miller both left with injuries. Do you have any early look on what those are?
I think they'll both be fine, yeah. Fofana, I think, just had an upset stomach, and Peyton, I think, had a cramp.
Coach, just wanted to ask, firstly, on the 2 subs you made later in the game, Langoni and Chocolai both off the bench, kind of how you thought they played, and overall, like, how does it feel to have Chocolai obviously reintegrated back into the group?
Yeah, it's good to have options. You know, it's good to have guys that we can throw up top. Obviously, we have strikers that can play in a 2 front, so that's kind of one of the reasons we felt it would be a good way to go. I thought we had a lot of good transition moments as well. It'll keep getting better. I love the first goal because the 2 strikers, you know, combined. And, you know, if those 2 players and Carlos are operating in the right way, they're reading each other and they're attacking the spaces that are open, will be difficult to deal with, especially with our wing backs, because those 2 guys are a threat. And you got to be honest on those 2, and that'll pull apart the back 4, and that opens up space for the, you know, the 2 strikers and Carlos.
Seth, you have one?
Can you just kind of talk about how this has been for you to build this project last year the way it was, then this year? But you have back-to-back wins now, multi-goal wins, probably a 90-minute performance overall. How good is it to have that given the past?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I like where we're at. I'm not thinking backwards. I'm not thinking forwards. I'm thinking about where we're at, and I think we're in a good spot. We're in the race now, right? We're in the hunt, and yet we have to stay hungry. We got to keep fighting. You know, we're nowhere near where we need to be. It was a slow start, but you know, I had been saying it. You know, we're making progress. We just need time, and I think that's rung true.
So we have Hayden again. We'll go Sam next.
It seems like, every player in the field, you can talk about, keep fighting. It seems like every player is kind of fighting defensively and contesting things, and it seems like that's kind of the team-wide mentality. I guess how important is that for you and kind of your system?
Yeah, it's very important. The good teams I've had that have won trophies were good defensive teams. So this team's a very good defensive team, and they're taking pride in defending and getting clean sheets. And we've proven to be a difficult team to face in that regard. And now the balance is coming, and the chances are coming. Over the last 4 games, we've created chances and we've scored goals. So that's right now working for us. Can we create more? I think so. Is there more quality that we can create in the final third? Yes. For me, with more time, it's going to keep getting better, because when you really think about it, especially the 2 strikers, the first game they played together. So those 2 guys had 4 days of training. So that combination on the goal, that's what I want. Those 2 guys need to play off each other. If we're playing a 2 front, we need that push-pull. We need a guy checking and one guy running. And if we're clever and that chemistry comes, we'll be a handful.
Sam, then Gus, and Ethan.
For a player like Ignacio Scanago, it's been over 680 days since he's last scored a goal. Getting to know him, what's it like to be able to see him, finally be able to get the back of the net, and just how do you kind of hope he builds off this performance?
Yeah, it's, as a whole, the players are in the arena. They're the ones that deserve the credit for this turnaround in the last 4 games. We've been right there, but in the end, I asked for and I challenged them for more. And in the last 4 games, they gave more. And, that's what's turned it. It's nothing, we can make it into the system, and yeah, maybe that helps a little bit, but it's just the investment that they put in. And, a guy like Inago has just kept grinding, and he's played well in most games. He's been in good spots. He just hasn't finished. And I actually sat down with him and Leo individually on Friday, and I showed him, in Leo's case, I showed him all his goals in MLS. Just went through about 3 minutes of goals, reminded him of his quality. And then I went through Ganago, all his goals in League One, to remind him his quality. So, I think sometimes even good players, they need to remember they can hit the back of the net. They need permission to watch themselves, and I gave them permission, and we watched their goals, and and then they went and did it.
Coach, congratulations on the win. Good performance. Tonight was a little celebration about 30 years and inaugural game of the Revolution. And it's very rare in football to say or be able to say that you might have the best player in the club's history to play for you or to watch him. Do you think Carlos is the greatest Revolution player of all time since he coached against the Revs, played against the Revs many times?
I do it for the players. The day I stopped doing it for the players, the day I stopped coaching. I love, my purpose is to serve the players, to help them reach their potential, to help them achieve what they want to achieve and leave a legacy. I'm very proud of the other 2 clubs I was in where we were able to leave trophies in the trophy case, and I'm hoping to do that here with guys like Carlos, because when I'm old and gray and sitting in the rocking chair, I look back and remember more than anything the relationship that I had with a guy like Carlos. And he's a great guy. We have a great relationship. We meet once a week and we talk, and him and Matt and Ali are the 3 guys right now on my leadership council, and those 3 guys have delivered, over the last 4 games. When we were struggling and we didn't have our first win, I sat with those 3 guys and said, listen, guys, you have to set the tone. The team's going to go in the direction that you go, and it starts with your performances. And none of those 3 guys were playing well enough. Actually, Matt wasn't in yet. And in the last 4 games, all 3 of those guys delivered and performed extremely well, and their leadership has been a big key for us. But Carlos, can't say enough about him. The fans, hopefully, they realize how fortunate we are to have a player like him.
Why don't we take one last question? We'll go to Ethan here to wrap up.
Congratulations, Coach. This is the first time to see a 2-0 scoreline since you've been here. How do you like the scoreline? And can you comment on how the team held up to the dangerous lead, 2-0?
First time 2-0 scoreline. Really?
In non-friendlies, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. 2-0, okay. So, we scored more than 2 goals in some games, right? Yeah, I gotcha. It's interesting. I like it because, you know, sometimes you get 3 goals and it's 3-1, you know, I love a 2-0 win because you get the clean sheet, but it's a little comfier than the 1, and sometimes to get 3-4, you're risking. So I think our balance right now is right. We're creating enough chances. Some games, yeah, we'll score more than 2. Some games it's 1. But we're going to be tough to deal with the way we're playing right now, the way we're defending, the chances we're creating, the way we're playing in transition, the way we're pressing. I still think we can keep the ball a little bit better at times. We have a huge road stretch now. I think it's 6 of 7 on the road. So we're going to need to grind in those games. But I think the formula we have right now is going to help us in all these road games.